It seems like there's a really big important theme there. One, the curiosity when they bring in later has to be part of the other three too. So
Yes,
looking at it accurately, getting feedback from your environment, looking at the data, not just your own subjective opinion, and having that curiosity. And I love the idea of doing it from a developmental perspective, not just from a review perspective, because it's for their benefit, not just
yeah,
for justification of some promotion or not in the other sense. This
exactly.
curiosity and the seeking diverse opinions, does that also go in the vein of making those ultimate important complex decisions, or are there other factors we need to bring in when considering those important decisions that leaders make?
I definitely think there's some other things. If we think about important decisions leaders have to make, at its base, everything is change management. And so having a good grounding in change management process is really important for leaders. You have to get the people in your organization bought into your vision, where you're going, having them understand how it impacts them, and make sure that they understand what they need to do in order to make that vision a success. And when you're growing, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of ambiguity, and you have to help people deal with that. And so I think that's a really important framework for people to use. The other thing I would say is that you have to develop your team. That too often leaders get caught up in having to do everything themselves, which they know is not sustainable and is not scalable, but it's hard to let go of stuff. And so what you want to do is make sure that you've put a team around you, and in fact, a team around them that can grow as the organization grows, so that you can offload stuff and they can offload stuff and the organization can still scale. And then lastly, to make sure that you consider process, right? Part of what happens when you're on this part of the S curve, the hypergrowth part, is that there's so much going on that you mentioned the Stephen Covey or Eisenhower box earlier. We never get to the important, right? There's no end of urgent to do, and so we have to create time to think for ourselves, and in doing that, to think about what is going on in a way that we can sort of think of it as a utility, where we can put a process around it, so we don't have to think about it again. It can just run. Because we don't want to what happens for big companies sometimes is they get stuck sort of at one end of this continuum. I think call it the SOP continuum, standard operating process, or seat of the pants. And so we can get stuck in one place or the other. And then big, slow companies often have like way too much over here standard operating procedure that they try to apply to every situation. And startups often are way too far on the end here, seat of the pants. And you want to pick the right spot for the situation that you're in, not be wed to one answer or the other. So I think that's also super helpful for leaders as they try to deal with complexity.
So it sounds like you really have to be mindful of where you are in that SOP continuum and have the adaptiveness to respond as the environment changes as well.
Exactly.